Hello, hello, hello. How are you today? I wanted to discuss my favorite show on Netflix currently. And I'm sorry about the noise in the background. I'm sitting outside in nature, but unfortunately there are some cars driving by today. So I really love this show, and I watched it in South Korea about 2 months ago. It's still in my head because it just matches what's going on in society with women and with men. I think everyone who is a deep thinker should watch it, and especially women who, are a certain type. They take care of themselves, they are into beauty and music and fashion, because somehow some women might have their eyes opened. And so I want to make a small summary of the show. Basically, it's about a woman in her 20s, I think, and she is not unattractive. She's more like, an average woman. But for South Korea, and I've spent a lot of time in South Korea, this is pretty much bad. You can't be average in South Korea. And I'm lucky because I usually get a lot of compliments from girls in South Korea, but I've seen, the girls who are average, they can be pretty much invisible. And it's getting worse. I feel I love South Korean culture. I love the music industry in Korea, but it is a very tough place. Not just for women, it's for men and women, but I think girls have it much harder over there. And the beauty industry is huge, as much as the K-pop and music industry and the film industry. There are amazing shows and amazing bands in South Korea. My favorite ones are Eve, I don't know how to pronounce it, and XG, my favorite band now. I'm listening to it all the time. My favorite song is Woke Up. And I probably listened to the same song for 7 hours on my trip down to from Germany to the south of France. So I love South Korean K-pop. I think they do much better music videos and much better music right now. Some of especially the girl bands, are much cooler. They're much more fun, more colorful. And it's basically what I like. So I don't see stuff like that in the West now. In the West, there's like a clan of people who are pretty, nepotism like, and they rule everything. And you can see that when you look what's in the music industry now. It's basically all the same. They use the same script. They try the Lady Gaga script, but it doesn't work for them because many don't have the brain to implement it with soul. I feel in the West there are many things now that lack a soul. The Masked Girl is a soulful show. It's incredibly well done, and it's done by a man. I forgot his name. So he probably was trying to express what's going on with many girls in today's society. And this girl, who is average looking, she works at an office, and she had this dream to be a K-pop singer, but her appearance was working against her. So she grew up being told by her mother she's not very pretty, and she should just give up on her dreams becoming a singer and a performer. And she was really talented. And she had these experiences as a little girl. People laughed at her when she went on stage because she wasn't attractive. And that's not something that would happen in the West, but it's very realistic in South Korea. You get told, I heard that girls get told early on they should get their noses done. Even boys, so they often even cannot get a job if they don't look the part. So in Korea, if you're unattractive, you are basically lost, and there's no other possibility for you than having surgery and changing your appearance. So the beauty industry in Korea is huge, and I think in Seoul the capital of South Korea alone, you probably have at least 1,000 plastic surgery clinics. The difference between the West and the industry is that they create much more feminine faces, while in the West, they almost make women look more masculine. So it's a very superficial culture, society, but it's still incredibly deep thinking and intelligent and very colorful and vibrant, competitive, yes, but from what I feel, I feel very much at home there. Even when I spend time alone and it's difficult to make Korean friends, it's incredibly soul fulfilling. I enjoy spending time there. I feel at home. I don't feel very different to, I feel more at home in South Korea than in Europe at this point. So this girl, she has a very hard life from very young on because she doesn't look as pretty as girls are expected to look in the K-pop industry. And her dream was from young on to be a K-pop star. So she grows up giving up on her dreams, although she always works on her music and her performances. And she becomes an invisible woman in her office and in her life, and she always looks up to these girls who have it all, or who are pretty and who seem to get all the attention. What happens with time, she develops possibility to be a performer by becoming a cam girl. She puts on a mask and she becomes the most popular girl because she's very talented, but she has to keep wearing this mask to be accepted and to be popular, because she knows if she would take off the mask, it would not work, which is very sad, but that's basically the show. And then after she has more and more bad experiences, she basically is dating guys because people are crazy about her and they love her, and she's the most popular girl on this site. Korea, this is way more regulated, so you can't really take off your clothes. My God, and I also have to mention how many cam girl sites you have nowadays in the West, and how much men actually spend time there and how much money they spend on these girls. These girls do a lot of lightly sexualized things. It's not like in the West that they become vulgar. She has a lot of fans, and then in the end she meets up with one fan who recognizes her. He finds out who she is and he meets with her, and then he fools her into believing that he finds her attractive and he thinks she's pretty. And then in the end, he insults her because she doesn't want to sleep with him. And then he says, "Oh, you're so unattractive. Why do you even play hard to get? Because a woman like you or a girl like you shouldn't have such high expectations." And it makes her so angry that she attacks him and she accidentally kills him. She has the specific fan, which is an older guy. I will talk about him in the next video, and he's the cartoon guy with the cartoon guy programming. This man is in love with her and he wants to help her to get rid of the corpse. So he's communicating with her online and she's telling him what happened, and he promises to take care of that. So this type of character is an over-sexualized man who grows up in front of the screen idealizing women that are fantasy figures. That's why he falls in love with Mask Girl, because she's literally like a fantasy figure. It doesn't exist in real life. He recognizes her by noticing the color of her nails in the office that she also had on screen. So this man wants to get close to the real her and truly likes her also for her looks, but he doesn't have the social skills to approach women. So he covers up the murder for her out of love. So Mask Girl, who is named Nomi, develops triggers connected to how she looks and being attacked for how she looks. That's when she starts to act out violently because she has been abused so many times. And this creates a program connected to being attacked for her appearance. It's something that she cannot control. And I think that's the whole part about the Mask Girl programming, which is being done in society to girls now. Because if you can control something. You can change it, you can change your behavior, you can do something. But if people are being blamed for something that they were born with, they have no control over, it can create some kind of psychopathy over a long period of time. She's in love with a man who works at her office. She's dreaming of him, and she's just all in her head about him. She doesn't understand that this guy is basically just as superficial as all other men, and he has an affair with one of the pretty girls in the office. She gets completely heartbroken over that. All this trauma and all this hidden abuse that is happening to her, in the end, makes her get plastic surgery and have a complete makeover, which happens a lot in South Korea. Like, women, they get complete makeovers just to be able to live a normal life. It doesn't even mean that these girls will be hyped or like happy, like the happiest girl after that. She gets plastic surgery and she becomes very attractive after having improved basically everything. What happens then, she finally meets this guy while she's fully covered from her surgery. This guy, because he has no social skills and he wants to show her how much he loves her, he ends up raping her. That's the different kind of programming, the cartoon programming of men, where they basically fall in love with fictional on-screen characters and don't know how to relate to a real woman. In self-defense, she kills this man. Then she escapes and she disappears. I think that's when the second season starts. So she escapes to a place where she's hiding, and she's working in some kind of nightclub in a different city. She meets a girl who is exactly like her. And I found it so fascinating how the director used two girls. Sometimes you couldn't tell who was who. And they both went through the same life story. They ended up working in this nightclub. And they went through a lot of abuse from men, society, that were telling them, oh, you're not good enough, you're not pretty. One guy was using the second mask programming girl, using her for money. She was in love with him and he was using her for money. And she worked in some kind of supermarket, and he just basically used her financially and made her feel like he liked her, but just used her. And so after these kind of experiences, this girl also ended up getting complete makeover, and they met each other and they related so much to each other because they were literally the same person. What happened to these girls was they worked at this nightclub, they were performing, and they had all this attention from men now, but they noticed that this attention was basically also just superficial. Like, these men didn't even really care who they were or about their background story. They were just proving their ego with these girls' appearance, literally. This realization, I think, came to them later on, so they stick together as friends and became best friends and protected each other. They finally had somebody who completely understood who they were. It becomes apparent that both have a tendency to violence, and they end up killing the abusive boyfriend of the second masked girl. Both of these girls had developed some kind of psychopathy. They were extremely violent out of self-defense and out of cope mechanism to deal with the programming that they went through in the society. Treating women as just some kind of object. The masked girl programming is not just a Korean thing. It's something being used to control people. So these girls then ended up meeting the mother of the man who the first masked girl killed of self-defense during rape. His mother found the masked girl and wanted to get revenge at her, so they got rid of the mother together, but in that process the second masked girl ended up dying. The first masked girl ended up going to jail. And the sad part was that although she was extremely beautiful now, people found out that she had plastic surgery, and all these people could focus on was how much plastic surgery she had. So although she believed that she escaped the programming and she finally was okay, she was completely abused and labeled. Like, all the media could focus on was how much plastic surgery she had. So this was some kind of awakening. Yeah, it's a second step, so she could basically do nothing right. I think at that point she became even more violent. So she ended up going to jail out of self-defense from rape, and she was blamed to have murdered people when all she went through was literally due to society that was treating her bad, and she tried to escape and tried to make it better, and all she got was more abuse. In jail, she had a lot of women just focusing on her plastic surgery and thinking that this pretty girl was just so weak, so innocent, and women attacking her left and right. What happened then, basically, she got back. She was the most violent and the most aggressive of all of these women. And I think that was done so well, because I have looked into masculine programming. This is done by some higher people up there. This is a constructed thing to control women. And if you look deeper into it, you also understand why it's being done and who is doing this. But it's very dangerous to women. A lot of women today have masculine programming, and it's being done to pretty women too. It's not like in South Korea. It's also in South Korea. It's also being done to pretty women. But these days it's being done to pretty and to unattractive women. So the pretty women have it too. By being compared to airbrushed photo models all over the place and people that don't actually even exist. That's just what I have observed. This girl, the first mask girl, she gets attacked by a group of, overweight and really strong women. And I think it was so well done how the director portrayed how she basically beat them all. She beat the crap out of them, and they didn't expect it, because during this process of her life, she became so violent. She could literally, she could deal with everything, like with everyone. Then she got into solitary constrainment or confinement. How do you say that? I don't care now. Don't want to look it up. But she was put in solitary, into a solitary cell, and had to stay there for weeks. And then she got out, and the first thing she did was going back to these women who abused her and straight back to them and beat the crap out of them. And I think it was so well done. It was amazingly done by the director. And I think this happened like 4 times. Whenever she got out of the solitary constrainment or confinement, she just went straight back to these women. And these women in the end were so scared of her. They were much stronger than her, and like a group of women. And everybody was keeping their distance from her, because she was the most violent and most aggressive, most psychopathic, which is not really the case. But out of self-defense, she had developed this violence. She was basically left alone then, and she had young girls come into jail admiring her and saying, "Oh my God, I heard about your story." So she literally became a star as the mask girl. We didn't know about that, but I think she had lifelong jail sentence. I'm not sure about that. And what I think was kind of typical male, in the end, she lost her looks. Like 10 years later, she looked like really unattractive and haggard, and was in jail, went through all this abuse in jail, but she got respect in the end. And then she had these girls come up to her, and she looked frail and just unattractive, basically, because she was in jail for so long. So she lost all her looks, her hair and everything. And I think that was just typical male, when male want to show you. This was kind of the director telling you, this is what you will end up like with your masculine programming if you fight back at the male who rape you or who abuse you. It was some kind of warning by a man towards a woman who is fighting back against the male establishment that is trying to control women with how they look. So I didn't like that. And I also don't really like the director, because he made some huge mistakes in this show, although it's a great show, it's the best show that I've seen for a long time, he didn't treat the topic right. Maybe he did that on purpose because he didn't want the show to be unsuccessful. That's a possibility. So I understand that. So maybe he had to do that. But the girl in the end doesn't get any justice. It comes out that she has a daughter. This daughter goes through a similar kind of abuse in school related to her because people know she's the daughter of Mask Girl. This is a different kind of thing that you can see with the daughter. The story, I actually don't remember so much of this story anymore, but the daughter didn't understand the mother and what the mother went through and was hating the mother, but she didn't know the full story. And she thought that the mother didn't love her, although the mother ended up in jail because of society's abuse. And the daughter had to endure a lot of pain because of the mother through society. Then in the end, the end is not that great. I think it could have been better. The mother manages, so the first Mask Girl manages to escape jail and to help the daughter because the daughter gets kidnapped by the mother of the man with the comic programming who was killed during rape. But I don't want to spoil the whole ending, so you have to watch it for yourself. My point was the Mask Girl programming being done by society to girls. I think it's getting worse and worse that girls are being literally objectified to the point that all people care about, or especially in pretty girls, is how they look, how they show up. And it starts with the fact that the music industry and the film industry is telling women you have to look a certain way. Also, when girls actually try to improve things that they have been bullied for, or people have been telling them they should be better, they should do better, and things that they have no control over because they were born with certain aspects, if they try to improve these things, they get abused even more. Where you can see that is Kylie Jenner. She might not be the best example because the worst part is if you're not like super wealthy and you end up in Mask Girl programming, which is being done to most women these days, you will have no ability to fight the abuse that you get from society. So Kylie Jenner she's hardcore mask programming, and she was not the most attractive. She was abused before that. People forget how she was constantly labeled the least attractive girl, and people made fun of how she looked and her jaw. And then she had a makeover and now she looks very pretty, but people constantly label her for whatever she does. She has too much filler, she has this or that. And what Kylie Jenner did was basically just escape the constant abuse of society towards her, and she gets the most hate. I think she had one time, I think she put some eye fillers or something. That's not even surgery, that's just some injectables which you do in like 30 minutes in a doctor's office. It didn't look so great, but I thought she looked very beautiful. What I found extremely distressing, and I couldn't believe it, how people attacked her, and people who just really are not even attractive themselves. They're not attractive people, like very basic people, were just like making videos about her, calling her old looking and ugly and all sorts of things. I thought, my jaw dropped, and she looked perfectly fine. Even some kind of beauty influencers, who mock all these celebrities who had so much surgery, and they usually have a lot of surgery too, like Lauryn Hill. I find this woman terrible. I'm sorry to say that. I can't stand her because I don't say why. But she made a video, I think, about Kylie, and she ridiculed her fillers. And what the hell? This is so weird about people. They look like this Lauryn Hill. She looks like she had every surgery in the world. And she mocked this poor Kylie Jenner, who is like completely out of her league. And she mocked her for some small mistake that she made, and it was just probably just bad lighting. So because people just like to mock the pretty girls, unbelievable. So I couldn't believe how people treated Kylie Jenner. There was nothing wrong with her, nothing. And then she cried in an interview, and it was seriously, this was genuine, this was not, sometimes they make up stories, but the crying, you could feel she was devastated. And the best thing Kylie can do is to stay out of the limelight, just not to get abused from stupid people. This is a very sensitive girl, and people just focus on the wrong things. What's going on? So this is complete mask girl programming, which you can see happening to Kylie Jenner. She will probably not become violent or psychopathic, but a lot of these girls who experience this programming, and it's huge in society, they will become psychopathic over time, and some even violent. It's also linked to the adult industry, because a lot of girls, they feel abused by men, and then they get attention and they go into the adult industry. Like a lot of porn actresses have mask girl programming. They get a complete makeover, then they go into the porn industry or cam girl industry to get attention from men, to basically balance out the abuse they have experienced before. That's what many don't understand, because this programming is also being done to women to fill all the strip clubs, the gentleman clubs, the whatever these people in high positions secretly do. And they need to get women in, so they have to abuse pretty women, often pretty women that have everything right with them, to get them into mask girl programming. And these women feel flawed, improve themselves in some way, still get abused because they have done something. And the only thing that some of these girls can basically do, they become cam girls, they become strippers, where they get the attention, the positive attention, apostrophes, from men, which they didn't have. So it's really a very crazy, dangerous cycle, and I needed to study that for a while, because I thought, what's going on? Is society being weaponized? And you could really see that society itself is being weaponized against people, against the individual. Society is weaponized against the individual. And this includes pretty women, intelligent women, highly intelligent people. It's to make you feel weak and to take your power away. Because a woman who is constantly being labeled for her appearance, which she has no control over, and everything she is her appearance. People don't care what she did, people always focus on that. It makes you feel powerless. Then let's see, what does mask programming really mean? Because you can see mask programming, you can see the mask in certain movies. And that's linked to the psychological mask programming. This is a thing. This is really, you can write a script on that. There are scripts about that, how to get somebody into mask programming to destroy their confidence, then make them feel flawed, and how these people can be easily controlled. You can basically turn somebody like that into a mass murderer. These mask girl symbols appear in Phantom of the Opera. That's the first thing that came to my mind. It's always the person who's hiding away, wearing a mask, also creating an altar, like mask girl creates her persona as a cam girl. And they need to create an altar, a different person, which makes them escape their real person that was abused. And you can see that in Friday the 13th, Halloween. Most of these people, also even Freddy Krueger, if you watched, I think the first part I've seen it, I've recently rewatched it in the plane because I wanted to see the gematria numbers. I'm looking more at symbols in the background of movies lately. So I saw the mask in several parts of the film, and I know people just put mask on, but I think this was not coincidence. So the mask in Freddy Krueger, in the Nightmare movies, I found it a bit strange that I saw the mask probably twice in the background, and it's almost as if this guy really existed, which I researched, and he did exist. And this guy was maybe the real person under mask programming. It's possible, I don't know, but this guy, Freddy Krueger, did exist. So you have to make a person feel flawed, or you have to destroy their appearance, which basically all of these characters have a damaged face, and it's always the face, because your face is like your identity. So you destroy the identity of a person, and you can turn them into a psychopathic murderer and use them to, the way you want. So this is sometimes what I heard that certain people have done in the past, or they have experimented on some characters, how to turn somebody into a killer. And it's very deeply connected to the mask programming, to destroying someone's identity and the face. So when you see Freddy Krueger had his body burned, but all of these mask characters, people who were killers who were a mask, they always wear a mask because they had parts of their face destroyed. And to the normal person, it looks like, this is just a psychopath, an evil guy, but the background story is never even discussed about the killer. And that's what I also never really thought of. So nobody really cares what happened to Michael Myers and how he became this psychopathic person. It's quite interesting to see how these things are linked together, and how this programming of being flawed, the idea of being defective in some way. People can put things in your head which are not even true by raising the bar so high, putting out so many photoshopped images and so many photoshopped people, that you yourself will feel flawed, and society will attack you as being flawed when you're actually not. And in case you want to improve your flaws, maybe do something, you will be attacked even more, because plastic surgery is considered such a bad thing these days, and so monstrous, like you're a monster. There is also a movie, a nice movie, but it's not connected to maskal programming, but it's also describing how if you improve something and people know, maybe you changed your breasts or something, your lips or whatever, or your nose, and people find out about it, a lot of people will almost, look down at you like you're a monster. So the thing about maskal programming is you can't win. Because I thought, why would they even, if they do this to women, why would they, on the other hand, make plastic surgery look like something so evil and so destructive and so disgusting, when they offer, like, you have so many people who do it these days and so many clinics who offer it. And I mean, it's a huge business, but why would you have this cognitive dissonance which you're creating in the media and everything? Of course, because you need to do that. It's maskal programming and mask programming. It's happening to men too, and I think they started it on men more and more now, but it has been going on much longer for women, and it has destroyed some lives to the extent that, women have probably done terrible things out of psychopathy that has occurred, and maybe they ended up in jail and they're considered evil people, but there's a huge background story to that. The mask is always a symbol to watch out for, also in movies, because they use it to show people, oh, this is masculine programming. I think that with these movies, maybe they also get society into masculine programming in some way. And when they show the mask, I don't really know how this works, but the movies might be involved in this programming. But it's a lot, of course, it's the beauty industry. It's completely unrealistic standard that not even the prettiest women can achieve. And I'm telling you, if you have most gorgeous models, like the greatest supermodels, there are people working on, photoshopping them for like hours and hours. This was at least in the past. Today it's not like that anymore. But you had people working on their photoshopping for 3 hours sometimes. What does it tell you? Like, there's not even one woman who is perfect enough for the industry. And in the end, the normal person can't win at all. Not even Kylie Jenner can win, which should also tell you something. That's why I thought about it, because I know how many girls are doing OnlyFans today. Many don't understand, the men don't understand. It's related to masculine programming. It has to do with how they treat women. It has to do how they objectify women, because they have their own programming, and how they sexualize women. The porn industry makes men treat women more as objects than ever. So these girls, step by step, go through abuse, maybe have one-night stands with men while they expect a relationship. They see this is not how society is today. And then they improve their appearance or do something. And they go on OnlyFans, they go on, they start to do pornography, or they do other things to get some gratification that they didn't have. And the average person doesn't understand that this is programming, and it's not the evil women who are deciding to do that. It's a complete construct of, strings being pulled. Yeah, basically it's something to control people, and you can't win. You will never win with this programming, because society is being weaponized against these women. So men treat them poorly. Even after everything, they will keep telling them, oh, now you do OnlyFans, now you do this or that. While these women, they have escaped some kind of abuse, and they had to toughen up, like the masculine in jail. You can't blame them. But it doesn't mean that you shouldn't try to make the right decision as a woman. But it's just something that abuse can do to someone, that you don't really know which decision is right or wrong. You just escape the pain of society. And I believe that men do play a huge part in that, especially the newer generations. Don't understand how they play a part in that. It's a complete destruction of love, of seeing people for who they are instead of just the surface. It will not end well. It will not end well if this keeps going on like that. Think about it. Maybe you understand what I'm talking about. If you think it's too deep or too abstract or bizarre, what I'm telling you, just don't come back. And I don't care, to be honest. I actually remembered a nice masculine programming story about a girl somebody mentioned. He invited her from a dating app to his room to drink champagne. And he started abusing her and telling her that she doesn't look like in her pictures, attacking her appearance. And she freaked out and started crashing his hotel room and smashed literally everything. They had to call the police and throw her out. And she was a pretty Russian girl. And he said he just made some kind of a stupid joke, which I don't understand why a man would make such a joke. But he didn't want to upset her, but that was basically a trigger. And it set her off, and that's what can happen when a masked girl gets her programming triggered. So take care. I love you all, and I hope to speak to you soon. Just make sure you also listen to the second part where I describe the comic man programming. Take care. Bye.